Hello everyone! In this video I will show you my 5 favorite ways of blending alcohol-based markers. Specifically, I'll be using Copic markers. So let me show you how it's done.
Tip number 1. Color from light to dark. I'll be using C1 and also C3. When you color from light to dark, the alcohol in the marker blends better when layering dark tones over light tones. Now going over it with C3. So let me show you what I don't recommend doing, going from dark to light tones. So I'm using C5 right now, and later on I will use C1. So basically what happens whenever you use a light tone over a dark tone with alcohol-based markers is that the alcohol in the lighter tone leaves a patch, and it leaves an uneven blending patch. Tip number 2. Focus on pressure control. Press and let go fast. Create a quick brush stroke and repeat one over the other in the same movement to create a fluent blending. When you use the same pressure, you create edges in each brush stroke, and those edges remain visible. Tip number 3. Work quickly for smooth blending. The alcohol in the marker gets dry very quickly, so the best blending result is when the surface of the paper is still wet from the alcohol. Now going over the layer while it's still wet with C5. So let me show you what happens when you work slowly with the marker. When you work slowly with the marker, the alcohol absorbs in the paper and gets dry, which makes it more difficult for the tones to blend perfectly. So here's, for example, I waited around 3 minutes for the alcohol to be completely dry, and then I worked over it with C5. It is possible to blend it eventually if you go over it again and again and again, but it will be a waste of color. So this way it takes much more effort for you to create a perfect blending. Tip number 4. Color from the edge to the center. The first touch of the marker on the paper leaves a mark and it will be the most concentrated color area. So to create a perfect blending, you want the lightest areas to connect. When you start from the center or somewhere close to the edges and not exactly from the edges, it will leave some color gaps and it will be more difficult to get rid of them. Tip number 5. Use close tones. Blending with close tones is easier and more fluent. My best advice is to skip one tone in between, so using C1 and C3 or C5 and C7 and so on. I'm starting here with C5 and later on I will go over it with C7. Also, the reason I skip one tone in the middle is when you use tones that are too close, there is not enough difference in between them. It looks like you're using the same marker. Doing another layer of C5 to create a perfect blending. Now I'll be using C1 and C7. So basically what happens is that C7 is a little bit too dark to go over the C1. Tones that are too far from one another are most likely not to blend evenly at all. All these tips obviously work with colors as well. So here's, for example, the reds that I use. I usually don't mix up the light red and the dark red. So these are my 5 favorite ways to blend alcohol-based markers. And here's also a sneak peek of the next video. Used only alcohol-based markers to color this piece.
And that's it. I hope you find this video helpful and enjoyable. Let me know what you think in the comments, and also what other medium would you like to see in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.